Lauren.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being part of our campaign and congratulations for being cancer-free for 4 years. That's amazing. And thanks so much for taking part in this campaign during what is probably a very, very busy time for you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I've recently celebrated 4 years cancer-free. Get in. So yeah, I'm not doing too badly actually. Very busy, but doing things that I love, so happy days.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
How I would describe myself in 3 words? I'd probably describe myself as sweary, energetic, and kind. That's how I describe myself.
What is your biggest dream?
God, what's my biggest dream? Other than Paul Mescal marrying me? Probably, my biggest dream is just for everyone just to be happy, like whatever shape that takes. Like, I'd love to be able to take away pain and sick health and like troubles with money and war. I know that is a big old dream, but I'm gonna dream it. I'm gonna put it out into the universe. I just want the world to be a happy, content place for all.
Who's your #1 female icon?
My #1 female icon is my mother, Tina Mann. Right, Tina. She has taught me everything I know, and I definitely get my resilience from my mum. I also get my say what I feelness from my mum, but my mum's also very compassionate and has a lot of time for me, for my siblings, for anyone really, and takes good care of everybody despite what she's going through. So yeah, I definitely say my mum is an icon. Outside of my mum, Kathy Burke.
Can you tell us a little bit about your diagnosis?
So I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 31. No family history, absolutely no reason why it should be me. These are my natural breasts. They're a goodwill gesture to a breast, if you will. So I never thought I'd have to worry about breast cancer. But yeah, it came along. It came along when I was 31. In the prime of what I'd say is my early adulthood. I'd just got my first job in a managerial role, so career was kicking off. Moved house, moved in with my friends in East London, was having a whale of a time, dating, festivals, just living my best 31-year-old life. And then I felt a lump, and it was completely by accident. I wasn't checking my breasts, and luckily I did find it by accident. Someone out there was looking out for me. And I found it, and it did take me about 3 months to get diagnosed. The message was, we're not worried, you're young, you're healthy, you have no family history. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be breast cancer. But it was breast cancer. So yeah, diagnosed at age 31 with a grade 3 tumour. I think it was 2.8 centimetres, which doesn't feel that big, but in this was rather big. Went on to have 8 rounds of chemo, 25 rounds of radiotherapy and a lumpectomy. And yeah, as I said, currently 4 years cancer-free. Please, please, many, many more, a lifetime more.
So you described your diagnosis as like having your heart broken. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Finding out you've got cancer is like having your heart broken. It's a bereavement. Like in an instant, this whole world or life that you had ahead of you is now a question mark. It's an uncertainty, and you're heartbroken because everything has changed for you. You know life will never be the same. And you almost have to grieve a life pre-cancer, because I'm sat here now, forever changed by that experience, and for some ways for the good, some ways would never want to have to feel the things that I feel I've been through. So yeah, having a cancer diagnosis is having your heart broken. And it's not just for you, it's for everyone around you who loves you, because what they have to go through as well is, it's not what you want to put anyone through, not at all.
Why did you decide to start Girls vs Cancer? What did you feel was missing from the information and support that was out there already? Obviously you were quite young. Was that part of why you decided to start Girls vs Cancer?
Yeah, I decided to talk about my cancer experience because I was really struggling to find women like me. Like, there is so much information out there now, and 5 years down the line, it's a way different world than when I got diagnosed. So there was the odd young woman, but it was young, white, cis, heterosexual women. They weren't swears in mouths, red lipstick, going down the pub with mates. It was all very forlorn, bald, tan tights on really ugly sofas, leaflets handed to me, and asking me how I want to tell my children when I was very single and hadn't even thought about kids. So nothing really spoke to me. So I just decided, it was really organic actually, because I've always worked online. that I would talk about my experience on Instagram. And I don't know how the hashtag Girl vs Cancer was not taken, but it was not. And it felt very me. And I just started to share everything under the hashtag Girl vs Cancer. And as a result of that, other women like me found me. And we've kind of created this massive movement and this amazing community that I never dreamed. You know, I'd hoped that I could help future Laurens who got diagnosed by finding me. I never imagined it would be so many. So yeah, Girl vs Cancer came with a need to shift the perception of what cancer looks like, feels like, and who gets it, really.
Was sharing that so publicly on Instagram always not easy, but was that, like, were there moments where you thought, God, I wish I'd never started this?
Talking about my cancer experience so publicly, like, obviously had its good points in that I had a whole community at hand who understood what I was going through as I was going through it. I could get the advice and support I needed, and gave me a real sense of purpose and focus when I was really ill. But also, it has its struggles. I mean, we did not know how this was going to pan out. And by me being so open about it, I made myself very vulnerable. If things weren't going my way or if I was particularly ill, it was for the world to see. But strength comes through vulnerability, so I wouldn't ever change that. But yeah, it is hard sometimes. Sometimes I don't want to be the girl that had cancer. Sometimes I just want to be Loza. So yeah, it did have its difficulties, but on the whole, I'm really grateful that I had that support, and I wouldn't change how I've done it.
You do so many things for your community, from your blog to your brand, Girl vs Cancer, your amazing podcast, and you even were on First Dates.
I was.
What's
Hired
your
on national television.
What's your favourite thing to do, and what's still on your list?
My favourite thing to do with work is things like this. I like being out, talking to people, sharing experiences, showing people that there is a life beyond cancer. Like, some people will never be cancer free, but that doesn't mean they can't live a thriving life. And I think we're missold this idea of cancer. And so my favourite thing is to challenge people's perceptions of that. I love being in my community. I love hosting panels. I love learning from them, hearing their stories. That, for me, makes me so happy. And, you know, in terms of what's next, there's so much. Girl vs Cancer is now becoming a registered charity. I have big ideas and big plans for how we're going to support the community. It's going to be by the community, for the community. So rather than us assuming what the community needs, they're going to tell me, and I've got a big enough job to go make it happen. So, you know, big ideas, big plans. One day you will see a Girl vs Cancer massive gig series. That would be the dream. We'll get music involved, we'll all have a dance and a good time and raise some really good cash for cancer.
Are there any sort of funny stories that you can share in terms of your experience, your journey?
I mean, there's so many things with cancer that you have to find, like, humour in the darkness. And I'm really lucky that I'm in a group of family and friends who find that quite easy to do. I mean, there were moments, no one tells you when you have chemo that you lose your nose hair. So all of a sudden you get up from the sofa and you're snotting on the floor. And there was one day that I was doing an Instagram story walking down the street, and I turned my head to look at something, and this bit of snot just went the opposite direction. And I hope it didn't hit anyone behind me, but that was hilarious.
What do you think are people's biggest misconceptions about cancer?
I think people's biggest misconceptions about cancer are that it's elderly, that it's white, that you lose your hair, that it's incurable, that you can't live well if it is incurable. I think cancer still has this big stigma around it, and we equate cancer with death. And actually, I'm here to say that there is so much life, whether you get sick or not. No one treats diabetics like this way. No one treats anyone with a heart defect this way. There's something about the word cancer, I think it's because we don't understand it as well as we should, and it's not something that's discussed so openly. Like, we don't have education in schools about cancer really, or self-examinations. It's not part of our day-to-day language. So people they see what they see on TV, in storylines, in leaflets, they hear about their elderly relatives having it, and then they don't really absorb it as they really should. And that's why I set out to do the work that I do and talk so openly, because I am cancer. My whole community is cancer, and we are all vibrant, loving, individual human beings, and a cancer diagnosis is just as nuanced as a human attached. So yeah, I think the thing about cancer is once you get diagnosed, people tend to put you in a box of cancer patient, and I'm here to change all that. Squashing that, we're done.
I listened to, I don't know if it was in your podcast, but you kind of said the most annoying thing about a diagnosis is people stop seeing you and all they see is that diagnosis. What do you think some of those sort of lesser known mental health effects are? Like, I know you've spoken really openly about love life and also that kind of anxiety, panic attacks.
I think people need to know that just because you have cancer doesn't mean you've stopped being who you are. Like, I may have had cancer, but I still wanted to go to gigs, I still wanted to drink Prosecco, I still wanted to go and see my family and friends, I still wanted to travel, I still, you know, I'm still me. And I think what happens is, because people don't really understand it, or, you know, it's not normalised, people tend to shut down, and it can make you feel so isolated. And I don't think people realise how isolating a cancer diagnosis is, because not only, you know, all your friends and family love you, everyone wants to see you do well, but you're the person going through it. You're the person who sits in bed every night going through these side effects, thinking about, is this going to work out? Am I going to be okay? And that's really isolating.
What do you think, as a society, as individuals, as brands, as communities, as schools, we can do better?
I think as a society, we could be doing more in terms of supporting the cancer community, is stop burying our head in the sand for a start. There needs to, 1 or 2 people will get cancer in their lifetime. So if it's not you, it's going to be someone very close to you and someone that you love. So we all need to get comfortable with talking about it. Self-examination needs to be on the curriculum. We need to be making sure that young people are aware of their bodies, that they're comfortable and confident and have ownership of their bodies, you know, like being able to go to your GP with that kind of confidence and say, this isn't right for me, I want a referral. Like being able to, if someone in your family gets diagnosed with cancer or someone you love, to know where to go to find the information to support them, to what to buy, where to take them, what do they need. I think societally, because we equate cancer with death, people switch off to it, which is the wrong attitude, because there is so much life, and we all need to get a bit more comfortable with kind of getting our head out of the sand and actually seeing what's going on around us. Because the thing is, if you have something in your body that is cancer and you don't get it checked out, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to get better. It's just going to get worse. So burying your head in the sand is not a solution to a problem. Actually, what you need to do is take ownership of your health and know that with the advances in cancer, all the things that cancer researchers stand up fund, there is life and there is a future. You can live life well with and beyond cancer. But if you stay at home and don't get things checked or don't take ownership of your health, your chances of survival will drop. So my whole thing is, we need to own our health. We need to stop being scared, and just, you know, you've got more of a chance. You've got so much more of a chance of a happy full life if we just be brave and get in that doctor's surgery and say, yo, what is this?
So why do you think campaigns like Stand Up to Cancer are so important?
I'm such a big fan of stand-up. I actually, the day that I actually posted using the Girl vs Cancer hashtag was stand-up day. I was on my way to work. I was back working in between my diagnosis and starting chemo. And I came out of the station and there was those wonderful volunteers who stand outside the tube and they've got their buckets and they're collecting for stand-up. And I put my hand in my pocket, pulled out a note and put it in the bucket. And she went, thank you, that's really going to help those affected by cancer. And I was like, yeah, that's me. And I said it out loud and she just looked at me and I was like, oh, I'm starting chemo next week. And it was that moment of going, these things are helping me. And it all of a sudden just made me realise, oh my God, like I'm one of those people that Stand Up to Cancer share stories of. And stand up for me has always been this amazing force because it normalises the conversation. I don't feel like it's a down and out place. I don't feel like it's a pity party. I feel like it's a place to talk openly, honestly, with a sense of humour about cancer, raise really important funds that will save lives in the process. And, you know, like without things like Stand Up, we would still be in the dark ages and we do need to move forward. So being sat here today, even being part of this, is one of the proudest moments I've had. I'm not going to try and cry because this is so important to me. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. It's so important and I'm really, really proud to be here today.